Welcome to Uncaged. Today we're speaking with Devin Ulam. Devin, it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
Devin, I'm excited to speak with you. It's quite a serious topic that we're going to touch on today, but quite an important one for all of us. And Devin is the CTO at CurvePoint. CurvePoint's a really interesting company. They use spatial intelligence and AI to utilize everyday Wi-Fi signals to detect concealed and visible weapons in real time, functioning primarily as a privacy-first safety platform for schools and public buildings. And the reality is that we live in an insecure world these days, and so this is a topic that unfortunately bubbles up probably more than any of us want it to, but Devin and his team are working on great solutions for this. Devin, it's great to have you on the show. Before we get into the CurvePoint story, let's talk a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about your background and your career.
Sure, yeah, I appreciate it, Ben. Thanks for having me on. So my name's Devin. I'm the CTO of CurvePoint. My background, I grew up in Pittsburgh. This is where CurvePoint's located. Went to school here at Pitt, and I focused on engineering, specifically chemical engineering, and wrote software to connect the physical layer of chemical engineering to the AI layer. So I did a lot of computer vision tasks, a lot of chemical modeling tasks to try to automate assembly lines that are producing chemical manufacturing, and basically was able to take a lot of IoT sensors, turn it into useful information that could then be automated with an intelligence layer like AI, computer vision models, these kind of things. And so, as part of that, I went to Carnegie Mellon for a master's program to bolster that skill set, but also help me become a future leader. So, it was basically a hybrid program at the Heinz College where half your time is spent on bolstering your technical skills and half the time is spent on management, handling conflicts, those kind of things. And through that, I kind of steered my way into entrepreneurship, where I took my skill set of basically connecting a lot of IoT sensors and applying AI on top of it, applied this into the oil and gas industry. So in the oil and gas industry, I built a technology that took sensors from a bunch of different locations and vendors on an oil and gas frac operation and culminate that to a central platform and be able to add intelligence layers on top of it to be able to do things like detect maintenance issues before they happen or detect spills before they happen and automate a lot of the reporting tasks and provide insights into future decision making. This way, you could make the whole oil and gas operation more efficient, which is, if anyone knows anything about oil and gas in the Northeast, there's a plethora of natural gas, but an insufficient amount of tools and automation, and especially AI, to be able to maximize those natural resources and extract them efficiently. A lot's changed since I worked on that. This was back in 2020. So I know that industry is growing a lot, but this was my foray into entrepreneurship and had a successful exit there. And since then, I've been building more and more technologies of being able to combine what we call like the physical world and adding AI into the physical world. And so this is what brought me to CurvePoint, where we're taking obviously what is the physical world and being able to build this a foundational signal layer on top of the physical world where we can detect objects as well as scenes with Wi-Fi. So basically I could recreate this entire room around me, the screen in front of me, anything that's on my persons. I can recreate that with a Wi-Fi sensor that's sitting in the corner of the room. This is what brought me to CurvePoint. And that's basically what we're doing, and we're focusing firstly on a very complicated problem, which is gun detection in schools.
Yeah, gun detection in schools. And certainly that is something that people have thought about the issues around school safety, certainly over the plethora of school shootings that have plagued the U.S. over the last decade, really, probably longer, but it seems like it's been front page news for the last decade. And tell me a little bit more about that work. When you're working with school systems and schools to do this type of work, what are some of the hurdles and challenges that you're finding to get this stuff implemented?
Great question. Well, I think it's well-known phenomena in the Wi-Fi sensing space. Wi-Fi sensing is something that's been invented before CurvePoint existed, but CurvePoint is the first company to take Wi-Fi sensing and be able to do what I described before with the scene reconstruction and being able to actually identify where people are and what they're doing in the space, as well as detecting objects. And so the Wi-Fi sensing space is pretty well studied. One of the biggest problems that everyone faces in Wi-Fi sensing is that the environmental complexity. So our device that we put into a school, that's main focus is to secure entryways. Typically, it sits right at a doorway, and it's also facing directly at the ground. So it's sensing everything beneath it, and the environment beneath it is important for us to be able to deploy a new school. And that if there's a lot of moving parts beneath it, let's say that there's often like boxes that are put in the way, or chairs put in the way, then that adds a lot of variance to the Wi-Fi signal that we have to overcome. And so what we've seen we've deployed dozens of these pods at different schools thus far, and we've been able to collect all that data over time and be able to see these nuances and changes in the environment. And that's ultimately by being able to observe that over time, we're able to overcome that and almost tell our model to just ignore it. So it's like, oh, I know that that's some new interference in our sensing layer. I don't need to worry about it. It doesn't have to do with people. It doesn't have to do with a weapon, so I can ignore it. But that required a lot of reinforcement, a lot of model training, and obviously time and money for us to overcome.
So, Devin, I mean, maybe for the laymen out there that are not technically adept, tell me a little bit more about exactly how this works. So, let's say a group of students are entering the school. How does it scan them? How does it know?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have a purpose-built Wi-Fi device that looks like a MacBook, and it targets, like I said, it sends signal to the ground from the doorway. And so basically, when you walk under that device, the Wi-Fi is being sent to the floor. It passes all around you and is able to, depending on how it interferes and how the waves get reflected off different surfaces. They go through you. You absorb some Wi-Fi. Just it's radio. It obviously gets absorbed through you, and as it comes back to our device, we get a plethora of information of all these different dimensions of data. And we say, okay, what did we see? And we can be able to say, okay, the person was walking in at this velocity, and they were this tall, and they had a laptop in their bag, or they had a handgun in their bag. And this is where we obviously are able to present having gun detection alerts.
And I mean, I think it sounds great. I can see this being effective not only at schools, but probably maybe because the World Cup has been absorbing our thoughts all summer, maybe at sporting events, probably at office buildings. So I can see, the potential is just massive for this type of technology. But I mean, I guess when you start on a project like this, you face lots of challenges. It sounds like there may have been some technical hurdles with the lovely human effect of people doing things like putting boxes in the wrong place. But tell me a little bit about some of the challenges and some of the topics that you're finding new customers for this product are coming to you with. Like what's top of mind for them right now?
Yeah, I think that a big hurdle that we face is building trust and building understanding of our product, as well as just security in general. Like I think a lot of expectations for security is that it works 100% of the time, and that I never get alerted whenever there's a false positive, and that I should only ever know when there's a gun, and it should always be right. And the reality is having something that's 95% right is better than not having anything at all. And being able to say that 95% of the guns that enter your school will be detected by your system is better than 0% of the guns being detected, with the trade-off being that maybe once or twice a morning, or 5% of the time that there's a false positive. That's a great trade-off to make. And I think it's just getting the customers to understand that, whether it's school customers, university customers, to understand that. And there's a ton of customers that do understand that trade-off and are willing to compromise there. We see it in the industry today with other metal detector solutions that have really high false positives rates. I think people are are a little bit sensitive to that. And so when they look at our system, we have better performance that we report, and we obviously enforce on our contract, and even still, I think sometimes there needs to be an understanding of the expectation of how often will this thing detect weapons, and how often will it maybe say that somebody bringing in a power drill is accidentally a weapon,
And it's such an interesting technology, and I'm imagining that as you've rolled this out, it only gets better in the sense that the system learns, right? The system
Exactly.
learns from
Yeah.
its various experiences. When you're testing it and when you're training it initially, you said that it's something like 95% effective. You guys find, is that correct?
Yes, that's our requirement for all of our customers. For them to accept our product, it needs to be 95% accurate. So we go through a testing phase with each customer that says we're actually going to bring out handgun replicas. You can bring in local police officers. We'll also bring in people, just normal volunteers that come in and say, I'm going to put on a backpack and we're going to test the accuracy of it detecting the weapon. And we go through that exercise, and basically, if we're not 95%, then they don't have to, they're not paying. And they're not paying until it meets that criteria.
I love it. Well, I mean, Devin, it's such an important product, and certainly the first application of you working with schools is critically important. I can't imagine what it would have been like to go to school and having that kind of sense of lack of security hanging over me as a young student, to be honest. So it's just an intense kind of challenge. And when you have these metal detectors that you're walking in and having to deal with, it's almost like I don't know, like a prison of some sort, I suppose, right?
There's definitely downsides to that approach. Very commonly, people say it feels prison-like, and there's studies showing that it does affect learning ability. I think that even if that cultural shift happens, the difference with our product, it lives pointing down at the ground. So it doesn't need to live at a doorway. It could be in a hallway, it could be in a gymnasium, it can be in a classroom. So you can have our sensing ability anywhere throughout the school. Whereas a metal detector, it needs to live in an entrance, it needs to have someone manning it, and therefore there's a huge cost burden to that. Logistics, operationally, it's difficult. Whereas our system, you could technically have it scattered throughout the building and be able to map the entire building for gun detection.
It's
And it's important to
incredible.
note that we're a very small fraction of the cost because it's
Yeah.
basically Wi-Fi sensors.
Yeah, no, I can see the benefit, and the cost efficiency is incredible. Well, Devin, I mean, I love the space that you're playing in, and certainly this is kind of a manifestation of something that you've worked on. You've worked on with sensors throughout your career so far. It's really interesting. I'm curious, when you think of the near future for what you guys are doing, how do you imagine it evolving over the next, let's say, 18 months?
Great question. So we are most definitely focused on schools. We care a lot about the problem. It's a very unique and difficult problem. Our technology is capable of doing much more than just gun detection. We can, like I said, we can recreate an entire environment and a scene and objects without a camera whatsoever. So naked eye, there's nothing seeing. It's just purely sensing, and I can be able to know if maybe a table moved, or if somebody was like laying in a bed too long, or if they fell. And so this has applications in private environments like nursing homes, or hospital rooms, hospital beds. That's in the healthcare space. There's also retail analytics, where or even home security, where you need to know if there's an intruder, and you know that you want more than just presence detection, just knowing that somebody's there. You want to actually know, where are they, what do they have on them, and it's never looking at you. It's not intruding on your privacy. So there's a huge trade benefit there with our system comparative to using cameras for similar tasks.
Yeah.
So we're exploring these different markets as we're building out our foundational model, because our foundational model can support really all these tasks. It's just a matter of applying it to a new space and putting our device in a new space.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Devin, if someone wanted to learn more about what you and CurvePoint are working on, where's the best place to find you guys?
Yeah, so our website's curvepoint.ai. And on LinkedIn, we post probably every other day. My profile, which is Devin Ulam on X, as well as on LinkedIn, you can search me. I post very often as well. We are constantly posting videos about our progress, some example demos of how our technology works, and we're actually ramping up that content even more in the future. So look forward to seeing more. Check us out on those platforms.
Well, I mean, Devin, it's been really interesting to talk with you. And I would say that it's extremely promising to hear that we're able to roll these types of things out in a cost-effective manner, adding another layer of detection, I'd say another layer of security that hopefully we can deal with really what has become kind of a societal challenge. But I think, as you said, from a business perspective, there's a real benefit to this type of technology across the board. I can see lots of opportunities for CurvePoint as you guys continue to develop and shape and hopefully help us create a maybe more seamless way of staying safe, right? Something that we don't have to, pass through so many detectors all the time. But it's great to learn about CurvePoint. We've been speaking with Devin Ulam. He's a CTO at CurvePoint, which is a company that's enhancing school safety with entry threat detection. And we've been talking to them on how they utilize Wi-Fi sensors in a very powerful way to provide threat detection, and of potential weapons carries entering schools, and obviously making students much safer going forward, but then also where this type of technology could be applied outside of schools as well. So Devin, thank you so much for being on the Uncaged show today, and we look forward to having you back.
Awesome. Thanks again, man. It's great to
Cheers.
meet you, and cheers, everyone.
Cheers, buddy.